Hello, and welcome back to the Third Space podcast. This is Bennett introducing the 31st episode of the podcast, in which Daniel and I tackle a wide range of topics. To start off, we discuss Daniel's recent experimentation with a 3-day juice cleanse, a 72-hour period of hunger and discomfort. He walks us through what it was and why he did it, and from there we talk a little bit about nutrition and diet. And then we change topics totally, and we launch into a segment that we've done a couple times previously called Bennett Fixes Sports, where I take a modern sport and I make it better and actually entertaining. For this one, we tackle the Olympics, which certainly needs some improvements, and I think I did a good job improving it. And after that, Daniel asks an interesting question about whether one can be nostalgic for something that they never actually experienced in the first place. So we discussed that for a little bit, particularly in the area of video games and childhood and TV and movies and stuff. So those are the main topics we cover, and there's a bunch of other ones sprinkled in, but I hope you enjoy the episode. Here we go.
Bennett.
Daniel, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. This is the Third Space podcast again.
Yes.
Episode 31.
Yeah, 33rd Spacey one. Ask me how I've been again.
How have you been?
Well, I did a 3-day juice cleanse where I fasted for 3 days.
What is a 3-day juice cleanse?
It's where you pay $70 for an Amazon product that sends you 21, count them, 21 various powders that you mix as a juice, and you have them on the every 2 hours, so like 7 o'clock a.m. For my schedule, it was 7, 9, 11, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And they were color-coded, so there were only 4 different types of shakes, but they'd be named things like Revitalize and Detox and
P90X.
Whatever. Just these buzz terms about health and whatnot. And they did taste a little different, each one. And you're welcome to do this cleanse.
No.
No, not you. I just meant
okay.
Like in general, I guess the encouragement is to fast while you do it, or eat minimally, or eat, just lay off the caffeine and just reset your body kind of thing. And so I had never gone 24 hours without eating. So to go 72 without eating was really something.
Yeah. So can you really call it a fast if you're drinking juices? I mean, the juices have stuff in them, presumably.
Right. They do have some forms of nutrients. And so, no, I guess it's not. Well, I can assure you that I was very hungry. And that one thing I learned about myself, perhaps it wasn't wise, but I was working last week. And so I did this on days I needed to be focused, and we had meetings. So in some ways that was a benefit. Danielle did it. My girlfriend did it as well. But she was at home with, she had some time off. So I don't know which was actually smarter, because she could just lay around, take it easy, nap when she wanted.
Yeah,
I had to be focused.
She was eating stuff while you were at
She
work.
was eating stuff. And
she was like, sucker.
And so I had the distraction factor to my benefit.
That's
she
true.
had the
she had to focus on her hunger pangs.
right, or just sitting. So the temptation moments were when I would get home, and I realized how habitual eating is. At one point at work, they had given us a bag of goodies, kind of a welcome back. And included in that was a bag of some candy, Swedish fish, and
Your favorite.
And yes, actually, I'd filled out some form a long time ago. What are your favorite candies? And they were smart. They were kind enough to go get that. Yeah. And so I was sitting at my computer, and I noticed I had opened the bag and was reaching toward them. And I was hell-bent on, and I did, by the way, not consume any food. I did have a protein shake at one point when my headache got so severe, but I'll tell you about that later. But I was about to eat Swedish fish almost like basically unconsciously.
Yeah, just a habit. Yeah.
Yeah, or like habit's hard to call because it's not a habit to eat Swedish fish. So what was I doing? It was automaticity though, grabbing like it was on my desk. I was very hungry, so my hand just sort of reached out, opened it, and I thought, what am I doing? Like I'm really glad I didn't. I would have been disappointed to have failed, not because, or I guess it would be a lack of willpower, but you know, it would almost just seem like
it would be more a lack of attention.
Yeah,
willpower, really.
I agree, because it wouldn't be I'm giving in, dang it, I can't do this. It's more of I just was eating.
It's just it's funny because it kind of makes you think, you know, people say that things, let's see, how should I phrase it? Our like we don't classify things in our perception as what they are. We classify them as how we use them, right? So like a cup is a thing we drink from, and our body interacts with that cup with that purpose in mind. And so the Swedish fish are sitting on your desk, and they're not Swedish fish. They're things to be grabbed with your fingers and put in your mouth and eaten. And so, you know, if you're not focused and you let your attention waver, your body just interacts with the things in the way that suits their purpose. And Swedish fish are meant to be eaten for you. I don't like them, but for you,
it's a peculiar way. I mean, you're so right though, or else every object we would have to scrutinize, analyze, and it would be maddening. I mean, we can't function in a world with so many objects. That's why I have to look over on my desk, or if someone were to see my desk and see a container of pens and writing utensils and highlighter, like they wouldn't need to look at each one and, you know, hold it, see if it writes, and go, yep, that's a writing device. Like they just see it, label that entire area. Like if I need to write with something, I'll make note that there's an area with a bunch of them. I mean, you just can't have that level of, with so much detail in the world, we can't focus on all of it. So we simplify. I don't look at every chair and wonder what the heck is this object that's peculiar. I mean, think about the shape of a chair. It's a little odd. It's like, it's just it's not odd to us because we're so familiar with it, but it's you don't find this in nature. You don't see something with four legs and, you know, often a 90-degree angle with a back. And I mean, even calling it legs and a back, that's just my projection of, you know, that is what a chair is to me. It has legs and a back.
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine how strange, if we didn't do this, imagine how strange it would be to be, you know, walking down a path through the woods and there's a fallen tree and you sit on it. What? That's a tree, not a chair. So why would you ever sit on it? But of course we do immediately sit on it because we think about how we're using the things around us, not necessarily about what they are.
Yeah. In that way, the way we look at the world is how useful is this to me? How can I utilize this? How does this function in my life? Is it dangerous? Like our first question is this dangerous? Including the people around us. Is this dangerous or is it safe? Okay, now that I know, let's say it's not dangerous, it's safe. Does this serve me? Does it have any utility in my life? Seems to be the sort of, and then, you know, it just falls into patterns quickly, and it makes you wonder how often we make mistakes or overlook cool things or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, put something in the wrong category.
Yeah, I mean, all the time, I would imagine. So, right. But back to the fasting thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, 3 days, 72 hours. I made it.
So did you poop? Did you poop in 72 hours?
I did. I guess I emptied myself out. It was funny because I wasn't thinking about like your bowel movements and cleansing and all that, but that's really like a huge part of it, I suppose. So I was like by day 3, it was like I might not poop. Like I might, if I were to continue this, I would never poop.
Yeah, that's true.
And I felt this. People asked how I was feeling, right? And I felt on edge, so moody. Like at any given moment, I could, like, one small annoyance would feel more catastrophic than it was in actuality. It would just be like, just tiny annoyances would set me off. So I guess I was aware of that fragile state of my mood, and I would feel weak. You know, this isn't surprising, right? Like not the most energetic in the world, and not the most focused either. It was difficult to engage in more like even philosophical thought. I didn't have the energy to, for instance, typically we watch American Horror Story. We're binge watching it and talk about the episodes, and I like to offer my 2 cents on them, and
How
really try
scared
to.
you were. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely how scary. And instead, both of us would be like, "That was a good episode. Want to watch the next one?" It was more like
Yeah,
being
subdued. Yeah.
subdued is a good word. But at the same time, and this is what's difficult to pinpoint, like I felt lighter, and in some ways, I don't know if it's placebo effect, right? Because I want to feel good, and the whole point of a cleanse is to, in some ways, earn, like detox your body, and you earn it though. You earn feeling good because it's a kind of not a pleasurable process, and then you feel better. And so I don't know if I was convincing myself of this, but I think it's actually true. Even today, because Saturday was my day to eat, but waking up Saturday and today I feel lighter. I felt lighter then. I feel fresh. I feel good. I really do feel good. I do think it was worth it.
So it's interesting. Do you know offhand how sugary the juices were?
I don't.
Did they taste sweet?
They tasted a little bit sweet. Some of them did. One or two of them did. Yeah, and the other two did not.
I'm just curious. I'm just wondering, like, you drank them every 2 hours, essentially. That's what you said, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm wondering
7 a day. Yeah.
I'm wondering if your body got into a state of ketogenesis or not. Like, were you eating enough sugar for for that to be your fuel, or was there few enough carbs that your body's dropped into ketogenesis? The reason I bring that up is because I've done a ketogenic diet before just to experiment. I'm actually doing it now. I started a little over a month ago, and it's always interested me because it's like this strange built-in alternate path that your brain can use to survive, to consume energy. Normally your brain only consumes glucose, and then when you don't eat any glucose, you don't eat any carbs, then your brain can switch over and consume ketones as well, and your body can generate those from fat and protein. But it's what I noticed doing keto is that, like, I don't, after the initial 2 or 3 days when you're adjusting, and when your liver is depleted of all of its stored up glycogen, after that period, I feel pretty normal. And actually the most notable thing, and why I think a lot of people do it to lose weight, is because you don't really get hungry anymore. You just don't get hungry. It's very easy to go for a long time without eating. You can eat small meals. Normally when you're eating normal, carb rich meals and stuff, then you probably noticed right before lunch when 11:30 or 12 o'clock approaches, your stomach rumbles and you're really hungry and you want food. Yeah. But on keto, that doesn't really happen. Like, your stomach doesn't rumble and you're not really hungry. You just go, oh, it's time to eat. I'll eat some bacon or, whatever.
It's just more like you were consuming sustenance.
Yeah, I mean, and you can still get the joy of the foods, if you want. Like, I ate a big steak for lunch today, and I eat bacon in the mornings sometimes for breakfast, and that's pleasant. But
that's what I was going to ask. So you're like, when you say not hungry, like that hunger and desire are sort of intertwined, right? Or like cravings, or perhaps what do they call it? Food porn, like these sort of Instagram. Lots of things where you just see delicious and sloppy burgers and chicken sandwiches and all this that I like, and cheesy stuff. I just, part of my, I desire food, and I think about my meal on the weekend and stuff like that. So do you find when you're on the keto diet that you're not food just doesn't really consume your thoughts? Or maybe, I guess you'd have to speak to it. Never really does it consume your thoughts anyway, and to what extent is it different on the keto diet?
Normally food doesn't consume my thoughts that much. I like sweets, so, I'll get a craving for ice cream or something every few weeks and find it hard to resist. But, also there's something about the inertia of, a particular diet or whatever. At least for me, once I begin, then it's really easy for me to just maintain course. And since I'm not hungry, then all I have to really do is keep my mind off of sweets and ice cream and stuff. And, just never, if it doesn't come to mind, then I don't crave it and I'm fine. And there are things you can eat, like, to kind of fill that niche. I just eat a spoonful of peanut butter or something, which, has some sugar, has some carbs, but it's not a lot. It's not enough to ruin anything. And it's sufficiently sweet and satisfying that it's a decent enough snack. But for the most part, you can just have small meals of meat and cheese, which are two things that I love dearly. Avocado is another one. So that's what I eat for a while, and it's fine. And you don't actually feel when you're in the midst of a normal diet with carbs and everything, then you can have that 3 p.m. slump, where your blood sugar is low and you just feel kind of drowsy and tired, But at least for me on keto, it's very consistent. It's very even keel. Like my energy levels and my ability to focus and all of that is just very even keel. And I wouldn't even say that it's decreased from normal. So it's a very interesting sort of thing.
I just realized, I was just imagining myself trying to do this, and I dip all my meats in sauces. I love sauces. Is that something I'd have to give up? Because they're very sugary and things, right?
You just have to, you'd have to look at the specific sauces. Like I dip in ketchup a lot.
That's super sugary, right? Or do they have a sugar-free version?
They have a no added sugar version that doesn't taste significantly worse. But even so, you have to eat a lot of ketchup to ruin your keto. And if you exercise a little bit, then you burn off that sugar pretty quick too. So
when I think of people doing keto, why do I think of men that work out? Is this is there a stereotype of, diets seem to have stereotypes. This type of person tends to gravitate toward this diet, and when I think of keto, I think of, I don't know, what's that workout program people love so much?
P90X.
Yeah, that actually is the workout program, but no, but the workout one where they're lifting tires and doing, I'm just blanking on the name. It's almost got a cult following. It's almost like a religion. No, they I'm annoyed.
The muscle man.
You're just not helping me, and you know it.
What? Muscle gentleman competition.
That's a bad example of me describing this workout program. It's not about lifting tires.
Boys.
Oh, screw it! I'm not gonna find. It's not on the tip of my tongue.
Is it strongman?
No. This is I feel silly for not. If I just Google, I'm doing this popular workout programs.
CrossFit.
That's it. It's CrossFit.
Oh, yeah?
It really is. That's what I was looking for.
That does see. I
feel like keto and CrossFit would go together.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't understand it because I'm not involved in that world.
Have you met people that do CrossFit? I mean, they talk about it in the way that vegans talk about being a vegan. Yeah. So.
And it's a common joke. Like I hear people make fun of CrossFitters in the same way that they make fun of vegans. And I imagine they're kind of in with cyclists and stuff too. Although I can't imagine that CrossFitters would be as intolerable as cyclists.
Well, cyclists are actually on the road doing some annoying thing to you.
Yeah, CrossFitters are
they're just getting up early and working out. And
flipping a tire over and over.
That was such a bad description, I'm sure. But they do various workouts. But it's, I guess it's body, real, I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't know
Keep yourself active, right? Like doing whatever jump.
They have intense workout programs that they do together, but it's not like traditional. I mean, it's stuff that would be practical, I'm making this up, so I'm talking out of my butt. But I think they do, whether it's rock climbing or lifting yourself up or lifting real items, and you go to a gym where they do CrossFit, so you don't. It's not just I don't know. It's this whole program, but it's really intense, and it's
grocery bag carrying.
I think that's the spirit of it, though, is that it's real, if you think about when you lift weights, if you just lift some dumbbells and you do this curl, yes, it does make you look good, but does that actually is that practical strength? Is that really, is it though? It is, once you're strong, but like, I guess there's something appealing about what are the real motions we do in real life? Because it's unusual to do a curl like that with anything. So I don't know. I can see the appeal of it being catered toward genuine athleticism or something like that, you know? But I don't know. I don't even know if I'm right about any of what I just said. But a few more things about my, like, just of note about me going through this 3-day cleanse is I did, I wasn't as hungry as I thought, but I did get fixated on food, and I started fantasizing about the meal, my first meal, or the Saturday's day, and I was very excited about it. And,
what was it? What did you have?
well, I had I wanted to make nachos. I got really hung up on nachos, but I didn't want to just make regular nachos. So I was looking up unusual recipes, and there's nachos, like, put anything savory on it, and it's pretty much you're good to go. So I got caught on my own idea. I was proud of this. I was like, it struck me. You could make grilled cheese nachos or nacho grilled cheese, and I got all like, oh, and so like we rolled out these grilled cheeses, so it was really thin. Then we cut them up into each sandwich had 8. And so we cheddar cheese, butter, whatever, and then you bake them, so they almost became like chips. So then we put the nacho chips down, then we put those down, and then we made some cream cheese, like jalapeno popper dip, basically, because Publix has this popper dip that's amazing. And then I made my own with, but it's not made with cream cheese, and I really got onto like I want cream cheese, and so we made this unbelievable. Oh, it was so good. But I'll tell you though, like that was going to be our night meal, with a few drinks and have fun. So we're not going to wait till the night. So. First meal, we woke up starving, and we went to Waffle House, and it was the best freaking grilled chickens. Their grilled chicken biscuit.
Good, yeah.
Like anyone who's not had their grilled chicken biscuit, like, or just their chicken, I guess, at all, like they marinate it, and I don't know, it's not super strong. Like it's not like this special taste. It just tastes like grilled chicken, but it's always consistently really delicious. I mean, I have turned people on to this where I've like. Including Danielle, people go, oh, what's the big deal? And they take a bite and they go, that is delicious. I mean, that is really, really good. And so I would stake my claim to that, or I'd put my reputation out there. Like, go out, have that chicken biscuit, and you're going to enjoy it.
I agree. Their chicken is really tasty.
It's not something I would
flavor.
think. It's Waffle House. I'll be honest. Like a lot of their food, I really like it. I'm a fan of Waffle House. I like the culture surrounding it. I like all of it. But I'm not going to sit there and say their food's it's unique or like special tasting, but their chicken is special to me. It's special, and yet it's not this flavor that you've never had before. It's just a good grilled chicken flavor. I don't know what it's marinated in. I'm gonna look up the recipe and see if I can recreate that at home, because that'd be so good.
Waffle House is kind of special. I mean, I guess I don't go out and eat breakfast foods that often, but like the places that I've had waffles other than Waffle House, they always try to be fancy and have Belgian waffles or something, and they just never end up as good as Waffle House waffles, which are, I mean, they're just Waffle House waffles. It's not like I get what you're saying. It's not like they're fancy, but Waffle House has its own style, and it all comes together, and it's just I'm very pro Waffle House.
Yeah, I guess I should back up and say, so yeah, their waffles are very distinct, and I love them, and that's their signature, so they really nailed it. If you're going to call yourself Waffle House, you better have a damn good waffle, and they do, and it's unique, and yes. But I guess I just meant that if you're a diner and eggs is like a major part of your menu, I mean, eggs are just eggs, and any sort of diner, I mean, diners are just diners. And there's just a smaller window of how unique. I mean, they're not gonna cater to the hipster crowd and have like a goat cheese and bacon jam burger or something like that. They're just it's just gonna be, you get your hash browns covered and smothered, and you're gonna like it. Like it's just like your omelet's gonna be an omelet. I don't know. It is what it is, and it knows it, and it's not trying to be something else, and I appreciate that, because that's where I think Applebee's and things like that went wrong. This is like middle America. They know what they want. They love this stuff, and then the hipster movement came in and said, we want fancy, weird stuff, and so Applebee's, Chili's, these sorts of places said, okay,
we can do that.
But the thing is, like, that's not what middle America. Look, hipsters scoff at these restaurants anyway, and they're not gonna go, and the people that do go are like, what the heck is on this menu? Why are you changing things up? And so everybody was it just
How do
hurt
they get
everything.
cheese from a goat?
I mean, I'm just I'm joking. I mean, and I'm not even being mean spirited. I'm like, I love these places, or not. Actually, think Applebee's sucks. Their service is terrible, but I think Chili. But I'm not scoffing at their lack of quality. Like, I want their, bang bang shrimp knockoff or whatever. I want all their like fried,
when I was
crappy stuff. I love it. So.
When I was a kid, Applebee's was like one of the places I would clamor to go to, because they used to have a Bourbon Street steak, and when I was a kid, I loved steak. I still love steak. But
did you love it in that way that it's almost like an older people's food that you were kind of cool for getting, or was that not part of it? Like, I can imagine that's an adult thing, and here you are getting this adult.
I think that was a little of it. But the Bourbon Street steak at Applebee's, they had it on one of those iron skillets, and it had like a ton of like blackened seasoning. It's probably like sirloin, just a low quality cut of meat, but with a ton of spices and sizzling on that iron skillet, and they bring it out and it'd be all smoking and sizzling.
Yeah,
man, I loved that as a kid. The spectacle of it, it was great. And so I would just always be asking. It was either Pizza Hut, Applebee's. That's about it.
I was waiting for something else.
Those are the ones. And
I remember your affinity for steak, and I was intimidated by steak. It was a man's food, and I was a child. Like, that's just too much. Like, that's just. And getting a knife, like a steak knife, and that was like, oh man. And I remember you liking it and thinking it's just a little too much for me, Bennett. Like, I don't know, like I don't like, even because your dad would cook or grill steaks and he was really good at it, and you loved it, and I wasn't. It's not that I was opposed to the taste. I'm just a kid that wanted cheap, like McDonald's and chicken fingers or
chicken
something,
tenders,
and pizza and whatever, and so it was just sort of like steak's fine. It's just it's so strange to say that a food could be intimidating culturally or whatever, but like, even
I don't know.
When you're younger, like even cutting a steak, that's like, maybe this is where I developed my sort of lazy food consumption. Like, I don't order crab legs, even though I like crab legs, just because I don't want to manipulate it and open it up. And there's potential for looking stupid, but also it's just a lot of work, and I want to just eat my food. And as a kid, I considered steak a lot of work. Obviously, just cutting a bite of your steak is no big deal, but it was. I don't know if it's just when you're little, like it's literally like your muscles. It's in a knife, and it's just like, how do you hold it, and coordination, and and this sort of, even at that age, I had some knowledge that like dipping it, and I'm glad. I salute you for not not yielding to this, but dipping it in steak was kind of trashy, and like
ketchup.
Dipping it in ketchup. What did I say?
Dipping it in steak.
Oh, dipping your steak in ketchup was kind of trashy, and yet I wanted to dip it in ketchup, and so it was just too much. It was like, nope, not getting steak. There's too many variables here. People are judging me. Like, there's judgment. It's too manly, whatever that means. I mean, obviously steak isn't inherently manly, but I guess in my household, my mom got the like chicken Alfredo, and my dad got the steak, and it was just a very classic sort of ordering. At least in my mind, it just I've solidified as like. Pasta being feminine.
Think about it too. Like in my family, and probably in yours too, it was my dad that grilled the steaks. My dad was the griller. My mom was the cooker. If we were doing chicken, then my mom would bake it in the oven or whatever. But if we were doing steak, my dad was grilling it on the grill. So, like, there was still some conceptualization of steak being the manly one, and the baked chicken being the womanly one. I would eat them both. But the steak was the one that I liked. But I think for me it was. I mean, there might have been a little bit of that, but I love the taste of it.
Mostly the taste, I'm sure. Yeah, it's not like you didn't like the taste, but you wanted to be a man, so you just forced it down or something. It's a funny thought.
That is funny. Yeah, so good. And there's nothing wrong with dipping a steak in ketchup. That acidity, mixing in there with the fat on the steak,
just throw a little science out there, and it makes it
so
okay.
Good. Yeah, the people who trash it, they.
Well, why do you think it's considered trashy? I mean, why do we develop these things to judge as trashy?
I can tell you why. It's because a lot of places, I guess historically, if they have old meat or bad cuts of meat, then dipping it in ketchup or in a sauce disguises the poor quality of the meat. And so if you're poor and trashy and you're eating poor quality meat, then you dip it in ketchup to make it palatable. And so that's understandable that it got that reputation. But I don't eat poor quality old meat. I eat fresh, delicious ribeye steaks that I just grill, and then I dip them in ketchup a little
Is
bit.
the other side of the coin that it's insulting to the chef because they've prepared this amazing piece of meat, and so dipping it in ketchup is suggesting that maybe it isn't quality or isn't good?
Yeah,
so
sure.
insulting.
Maybe that might be the case, but I'm paying the chef for that steak, and so I'm damn well gonna dip it in ketchup if I want.
You're gonna do what you want with it.
And you can suck it up. And if you're one of those chefs that say, "Oh, you eat the way we want you to eat," that's my chef accent.
All chefs. There's a chef accent. We should not have like national accents. We should just have like different professions in their accent.
I mean, there are restaurants that are like that, and they're like no substitutions. You can't get
I can see a fancy restaurant in like LA not having ketchup or ranch. They're just like, no, we're too.
Yeah.
We our food is good. We're not carrying that rancid crap. Like, okay.
Right. And okay, I just won't eat at your restaurant. You don't need my business. I just won't eat there. Or there are burger places that won't. If you order your burger without lettuce or tomato or something, they just put it on there anyway. They say we're not doing that.
I find that suggestion so arrogant. I mean, it's trying to go for a soup Nazi, vibe of like, we are culinary experts, trust us, and that makes some degree of sense. I get the appeal of I'm going to this place and I need to trust them. However, like, they're just different people in the world, and allergies, but just taste. Like, don't eat something you don't like. And I'm not going to convince Bennett that he likes mustard. You know what I mean? And if my burger that I've concocted in my restaurant has mustard on it, but and it's still it's great, and Bennett could enjoy it if I just didn't put the mustard on it, then like, let him enjoy it. I just don't understand there's such a degree of arrogance at that point.
I think the right compromise is that if you have a restaurant and you think you know better than the people who are paying to eat food from your restaurant, then you put all of those fancy hipster things on your menu. You have the mustard burger on your menu, and you have the ketchupless steak. That doesn't make sense. But you put all that on your menu, and then you present it to the customer, and they'll look at it, and they'll read it, and they'll either go, "This all sounds disgusting," and leave, or they'll go, "You know what? I'll give it a try. Give me the ketchupless steak." And they'll try it out. And if they're won over, they'll come back and have it again. And
I am convinced sometimes if it's a restaurant that and there's a burger, and let's just say it's an item I'm not usually wild about, but I'm willing to give it a shot, and it's mixed in with a bunch of others, like, okay, let's see how this goes. And so
yeah, sure. I'm not opposed to taking a risk on some things. If it's on the menu and it sounds interesting, and I ask the waiter, and I'm like, "Hey, what's the deal with this? Is it good?" And they're like, "Yeah, you wouldn't think it would be." Like a peanut butter burger. Like there are those burgers that have peanut butter on them, and they're like, "You wouldn't think it would be good, but it actually is really good. You ought to try it." That might win me over. I might go, "Okay, you know what? I'll try it." And it helps because I love peanut butter and burgers, but they're just, I normally wouldn't combine those things.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I got to tell you, like, that's so with the fasting and stuff. I guess you wouldn't call it fasting, like you said. It was some form of nutrients, but I'm telling you, this cleanse. I mean, you want to say smoothie or shake I'm drinking every 2 hours. Sounds like, oh, he's having something every 2 hours. I'm telling you, it was like 14 ounces of water with this tiny little powder. It did not feel like you're eating a meal, man. It did not feel like, oh, I'm full. It was no more sustaining than just drinking some water. I mean, it certainly was. There was powder in there, but it sounds less impressive. You're like, oh, he had a shake every 2 hours. Like, no, man. Like it, and also, even though I got fixated on food, there wasn't like hunger pains in my stomach. It was more just feeling weak. I did have a headache develop on the second night. That's when I did have a protein shake too. It says, look, if you're hungry, eat. It just says that straight up. They don't want people to go to the hospital or something and then be liable for it. So,
right.
And so I just had to manage that headache. But it was kind of a discipline exercise for me. Like, you know what? It was a colleague. She had just finished doing one, and And I've always, in the back of my mind, been like, I'm not opposed to some sort of healthy, BS healthy trendy thing, and this made it easy. You just buy a little kit and follow the directions instead of having to, it's like, okay, I mean, I guess that's what you're paying for, is some of the expertise and nutrients and format. Like, here it all is, here's a little kit. And I would recommend, just as a discipline exercise, and also training yourself. Like, when I got home, I would go to the pantry and I find myself standing there staring and going, why am I doing this? And it's because it's what I do when I get home, right? The automaticity playing in, and I just was like, okay, it makes you aware of a couple things, like how much we center our day around breaks and meals. It's like, oh, it's lunchtime. And but here's another thing, though, I found interesting, is people talk about temptation a lot. It's like, they had cinnamon buns one day, and I love cinnamon buns at work, and I'm very hungry. It's day 3, and they're having cinnamon buns, and I joke about how they selected that just to torture me or whatever. But here's what I don't know how to describe perfectly. This might sound alien to you, or it might resonate with you. Seeing and smelling those cinnamon buns did not make me like closer to giving in or angry that they were having it and I wasn't. Like, my temptation to eat was no more tested at the smell of those cinnamon buns than I'm not tempted in those ways. Like, oh, I'm about to give in, screw it, and take the cinnamon bun and just eat it. I had made up my mind from the beginning. I was gonna do this. I'd shut it down, and like, it didn't torture me. I don't know how to explain it. Like, did it smell good? Did I want it? All of that is yes. But it was no more torture than when I was thinking about the nachos and looking up that was actually more torturous, like, to myself. And it was intentional, looking up nacho recipes while you're, haven't eaten for 2 days and salivating over these things. Am I making any sense to you that like the classic temptation is, oh, I'm hungry. Someone walks by with good food that you like, and you want it, and you're either mad at the person or teasing the person or whatever, but like, and I even played the role and pretended to be tortured, but or extra tortured. But what does that mean that it didn't? I guess it just means I made up my mind, and in my mind, this sounded more profound. I'm saying it out loud, and it doesn't sound that interesting. But
I mean, I guess it just means that you're able to exert some willpower when necessary. So the discipline exercise was a waste of time, because you could do that already. You didn't need to learn that skill.
I guess my thing is temptation. Temptation comes in different forms, though, or like you think temptation comes at its the immediate availability of the thing you desire, but because there it is, literally this cinnamon bun is attainable to me. I could literally just say, okay, I want it, and I could take a bite. And so that's what would create the temptation, is the proximity and access and availability, right? All right there. Mm-hmm. But I knew from the beginning, I guess my mind is good at knowing, dude, if I really want a burger, I can go get one. Like, it is available to me, whether it's in front of me or a 10-minute drive down the street.
Here's an interesting question. Thinking about personalities, you and I are both on the Myers-Briggs scale, J types. We're planners. The J stands for judging, but essentially that means we plan things, right? Everything has its place. We plan in advance. We don't like unannounced plans or changes. Do you think that plays a role in discipline, or in the ability to resist temptation? Because what it sounds like, what you're telling me is, you had already planned not to eat cinnamon buns. You already knew that you were just going to drink a juice every 2 hours, and that's what you were going to be eating. So when you had this unwelcome interruption of cinnamon buns on the table, well, it's annoying that was presented to you, but you already have the plan. That's already in your head, so you don't have to think about what decision to make in the moment, because you already have your plan set.
I think you're absolutely right. That's actually what I was trying to articulate, maybe on some level, or that's the discovery I learned, is that for me, also, I had conceptualized temptation already pretty accurately. I already knew delicious burgers exist. So okay, let's say someone who's less disciplined or less of a planner doesn't think of, like, and they love burgers too, just like me. The difference is when I see the burger right in front of my face, I had already conceptualized that temptation of the burger, and that had defeated the power of the burger over me in some ways. Like I really, all food, I was like, oh, it's going to be tempting. I'll be thinking about it. I had really walked through in my mind what this was going to feel like and all of that. And so then seeing it, when it played out in actuality, it was just like, yeah, oh, yeah. I mean, it's almost this matter-of-fact feeling of, yes, there it is. It is, in fact, delicious smelling. And so I can't say that it didn't make me a little like, oh, yeah. I mean, reality versus the conceptualization of reality is a different thing. There's a giant gap, no doubt. But it didn't make me want to give in. Whereas perhaps someone just saying, perhaps on some level, when you're not planning that thoroughly, you're like, oh, I just won't eat for 3 days, and then you move on to the next thing. So actuality is like hitting you a little harder, and you hadn't thought about that cinnamon bun. So when it does present itself, that's
here's another question. You remember a while back when we talked about aphantasia, which is the supposed inability to visualize things in your head?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a similar thing for taste. So I'll just ask you, like, can you imagine imagine like a buffalo chicken wing, all right?
Okay.
Imagine that, and imagine taking a bite of it and the flavor of the buffalo sauce on your tongue. Can you imagine precisely what it tastes like?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I also, now you've created desire in me to get it. So like, it's not
well,
enough.
I'm not talking about.
It
I'm just
satiate the need.
No, it doesn't satiate the needs. I'm not talking about that. But like, you can clearly picture the taste, or a ice cream sandwich, and you can recreate the flavor in your head that is exactly what that ice cream sandwich tastes like. And I wonder if there are people out there who can't do that in the same way that they can't visualize something. I wonder if there are people out there with, I don't know what it would be called, atastasia, or whatever, like who can't do that. It's not really relevant to what you're talking about. It just popped in my head.
Well, even people with aphantasia, if you can't, I wonder how they are with temptation in general. Can you accurate? It's probably not the same thing. Yeah. But if you can't accurately conceptualize your temptations, because that's how I overcome temptations, is sort of understand that draw will be there. Try to defeat it before the temptation ever arises. I mean, I guess that's when I would be susceptible to a temptation, is when I wasn't expecting it or had not even considered it. Like, if I hadn't thought, oh, I'm going to be hungry and I will want a burger, Daniel, don't give in when, future Daniel, don't give in when you want that burger. And like, I'm pretty good at going, okay, past Daniel, I remember you saying that and I appreciate it. Here we are in this moment, and I want to honor my past and future self, and yay. And I also know that me now, the future self with the burger, would create a future self that would be disappointed and upset. And so I can also imagine that person being really pissed off with me. And so I don't do it. Yeah. And I actually do constantly picture that tension of the past me and future me.
That's good. I kind of do the same thing. And I think that, like, let's take a moment and pat ourselves on the back, and all the other planner types and the people who they pick a path and they stick to it, because it seems like nowadays spontaneity, that's a buzzword that people throw around, and it's always a positive, and there's definitely benefits to being spontaneous, but like I don't think that unspontaneity gets enough recognition. Like, that's what allows you to make the bargain with your past self, or recognize the disappointment that your past self would have if he could see you, giving into temptation or whatever spontaneously. So,
yeah, I guess spontaneity, is it discipline? Is discipline just the, I don't know, opposite of spontaneity? Orderness, whatever. But yeah, I agree. I mean, like spontaneity and impulsiveness, you could consider them to be synonyms, but spontaneity has a positive connotation and impulsiveness has a negative connotation. But they're kind of the same, wouldn't you say? I would. I mean, if I said, you could easily say if I like,
You
if
could
next
say,
weekend I came to see you and we were pleased with this, right? I bought tickets and I flew to see you. Like that's spontaneous, but it's
Sure.
impulse. It is impulsive. Like
and like to to look on the other hand, what we're talking about being a planner, you might say disciplined, but you might also say stubborn, right? That would be the negative connotation
yes,
of it.
absolutely, and that's levied at me from people who know me, like because I
Right,
like
yeah,
because I won't
me too.
deviate. Like that's kind of that's not fun. Like, come on, you're being no fun. It's like, yeah, because we agreed not to
Yeah.
do this. Like I'm not.
Right.
In my mind, it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not being fun? I'm literally just doing what we said we were gonna do, kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Ugh, juice cleanses.
Well, we haven't done Bennett Fixes Sports in a while.
Oh man, I'm ready to fix some sports.
And so I thought with the, what do they call it? The Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Did you know they call it that, by the way? The 2020
Jeez.
Tokyo Olympics. They just keep it that even though it's 2021. I find that really strange. They're branding all the flag when people are running and it says it because it's branded everywhere. It just says 2020. I guess did they just sit back and go, we've already printed out $1 million worth of banners. We're not undoing this. Or did they say, no, we're still going to go at 2024. So even though it's weird that the name of the Olympics is 2020 Tokyo or Tokyo 2020, whatever.
Yeah, and here we are in August
2021 and having it.
I think it's ridiculous. Like they should have just canceled it. They should have just canceled the whole thing and no 2020 Olympics.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I mean, delaying it, whatever, that's fine enough. But if you're gonna have it in 2021, it's the 2021 Olympics, and then the next one should be in 2025.
Well, clearly you have some gripes.
That's not my only gripes.
Is it fair? Is this a little too open-ended to say fix the Olympics, Bennett, or are you willing to take a stab at it?
I'm going to take a stab. I can do this. I can do it.
Let's fix the Olympics.
All right. So first, let me share my thoughts on the Olympics. So I like the idea. I like the idea of the Olympics.
I love the idea. The whole world comes together and competes in games for fun and some pride, but national
for pride. And it's a gigantic worldwide competition that tests ultimate athleticism.
It's so cool. Yeah,
like these are people who are peak physical specimens who train constantly to be the best that they can, breaking world records and everything in whatever narrow task.
I mean, world records are set by Olympians. Like that's when it happens, right? Or can you have like Guinness come out and measure your running or something? Like you know what I mean? What's a world record? I guess they're Olympic world records, right? They're called the Olympic world records. But no one's out there beating them anyway. Like they are the world records. Is it redundant to call it the Olympic world record?
I mean, I'm sure people beat world records outside of the Olympics.
Well, I'm sure when they're training, some of them are beating the world record a few times, right? And they're going, I'm going to beat the freaking world record because they've done it 10 times the last time they practiced. But then, they don't do it when it's time because that's the official, that's the pressure. That's part of it. That's the competition.
So the idea, that concept is really great.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how we ended up with the current Olympics out of that idea. Because the current Olympics is a snooze fest. Like, it is so boring.
Well, I don't even know, there's just a lot of, I'll call them strange or unfamiliar sports, or what happens, like what counts as a sport and what doesn't.
Yeah. I forgive me for pre-compiling a list in this topic that you spontaneously brought up. But here's a list of the events in the 2020 Olympics: diving, marathon swimming, synchronized swimming, water polo. Which I will say, as an aside, water polo might be cool because you don't ever see horses in a pool. Basketball, 3-on-3 basketball, canoe sprint, canoe slalom,
I didn't know
BMX.
3-on-3 basketball is an Olympic sport. Sorry.
BMX freestyle, BMX racing, mountain biking, road cycling, track cycling, artistic and rhythmic gymnastics, trampoline, volleyball, both beach and indoor, equestrian, both dressage, eventing, and jumping, freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, baseball, softball, archery, athletics, whatever that is,
Athletics
badminton.
athletics?
I don't know what it is. I didn't look it up. But badminton, boxing, fencing, field hockey, football, golf, handball, judo, karate, pentathlon, rowing, rugby, sailing, shooting, skateboarding, sport climbing, surfing, ping pong, taekwondo, tennis, triathlon, and weightlifting. Those are all of the Olympic events.
Okay.
And there are teams for each of those events, and there are a bunch of countries that participate in the Olympics. So you end up with a bajillion participants in the Olympics, and the attention is just diffused over all of them. Actually,
you're right. It's hard to know how serious a single event is, right? You can't be like this. I mean, you can within this is for the gold medal, this particular one, but you know.
It's diffused over. How long does it take to do the Olympics? A few weeks, right?
I mean, a few weeks at least, a month or so. It just seems like, and then any time of day, you're like, want to see if anything's on the Olympics being covered, and you kind of like, it's something to put on in the background almost at a party or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not good enough. I mean, that's not good enough. Like, all the enthusiasm that people have when they're watching a football game, which is already bizarre to me. Like, the Olympics should be ultra enthusiasm. Like, it should be 10 Super Bowls combined in terms of enthusiasm into the Olympics. But it's not. Instead, it's like 10. It's like one Super Bowl diluted into 10 mini Super Bowls, and people just kind of look at it every now and then, which is a shame. And it's like. And let's be real too. Some of these events are just not interesting. Like badminton, like you're gonna have tune in and draw a crowd for Olympic badminton.
That's the thing, is that the more unfamiliar the sport, the less I know if that's actually impressive. You know, like I assume I'm looking at the finest badminton ever.
Fine, sure. You know. Okay. Great. Maybe they're world-renowned badminton players,
but like if I don't have an appreciation for it, if I don't watch it regularly, yeah.
Right.
So.
Well, and you know, and I'm not saying that because I think I'm good at badminton. I'm probably terrible at badminton, and you know, it's not a matter of pride. It's a matter of why are you competing in badminton?
And do people fill badminton stadiums at other times of year? That's what I'm confused. How do you get to be on the badminton team? Are you like been training? Did you play in high school? And then, you know, how do you get to be an Olympian badminton athlete?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Badminton doesn't belong in the Olympics. Can we just agree on that? You and I and everyone listening, we can all agree. Badminton doesn't belong. Handball, no, get out. And like I even think like golf and basketball and baseball.
New, I believe. I might be wrong about that. Weirdly new to the Olympics. I'm not sure though. Like
they shouldn't have like football and golf and baseball and basketball, things that have their own tournaments and leagues. Like
so, just like if there's the NBA, there's the NFL. We've got to know that they service those needs, so we don't need to do it.
Yeah, we don't need that. Yeah, we don't need that.
Why do we need the USA to go in and dominate? Like, yeah,
right,
okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and so, like, anyway, so all of this combined, all of these diverse events that are nonetheless segregated, like, you don't have the swimmers competing in the gymnastics or anything like that, and it's distributed over, there are actually 11,100 participants in the Olympics this time. So all of that attention distributed over all the countries. Like, can you name a single Olympian?
Simone Weil something, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure. There we go. I know who you're talking about.
I'm the wrong person to ask.
There was some controversy with her, so I know who you're talking about. I don't know her name either, but still, like, I don't know any. Like, Michael Phelps would be the best I could do, and he's not even there anymore.
And if you think about it, the word Olympian should be, I mean, these are like gods amongst men kind of thing, like
right,
like, and yet if there's 1,100, are you just saying that's entirely too many to be impressive?
Yeah, I'm just saying that, you know, they
should be rock stars and superstars that we know, household names.
These are countries battling for national pride in the level of athleticism that they can produce, and we can't name a single we can only name the first name of one person who had some controversy from the
Well,
United
you and I
States.
shouldn't be the test.
Yes, we should.
Okay,
yes,
sure.
we should. But like, I mean,
but you're right.
No,
that these
sorry.
are not,
So
it's not common knowledge. Like there aren't
Yeah.
like Olympic fans who check the stats. I mean, I'm sure there are, but like there are
But
so
not
many people
many.
that know their football, right? Like
Right,
fantasy
yes.
football, and they just can rattle off and talk stats and all this all day. But you don't see that.
you don't see
with
fantasy Olympics.
Yeah,
you know?
or-
It's
yeah.
not like you don't find people in the off years going, Simone blah 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 is looking really good. I better, can't wait until 2024. People don't do that.
Right.
It's just out of people's minds in the interim time.
Right,
So
it's just something you tune into. You hope your country does well.
yeah, right.
Put
Whatever.
it on the
And
bar
so,
in the background in the bar, and that's it. Yeah.
right. And so all of this is my case for why the Olympics need to be fixed. There's a need here, and I'm here to fix that need. I can do it.
All right, let's hear how you do it.
But there's one other complaint before I fix it. Like, also, there's an additional component aside from the athletes where the Olympics is kind of more of a consumer sales event than a real. Like, there's a lot of pomp and circumstance around it that I also find kind of annoying.
You mean
may
like
just
opening
be-
ceremonies and stuff, or is that just
Yeah, all the ceremonies and nonsense and bleh, it's the torch running and all of this bleh.
I like to push back. I think that's part of coming together, and like I don't know. It's kind of neat that there's this fire that's never been put out or something. I don't know. It's been passed along. Whatever.
I think
Metaphorically.
I think it's obnoxious, and like I think it also.
Do you think all parades are obnoxious? Like, because I feel like it's just a big parade, kind of, even though it might not be. It just is like,
Yeah,
it's just like it's just there to go. Yay! It's beginning. It's kind of a pep rally, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I'm in my bold segment, so I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes.
All.
I'm going to go there. All parades are obnoxious. I'm just going to put it all out there. All right. So let's fix the Olympics. So here's how the new Olympics will be.
Okay.
So we're going to eliminate almost all of those events, all of those separate events. There's however many dozens of them that I listed. We don't need 5 events in a pool. We don't need 5 on a bike, 3 on a horse, and all the ball and stick and net games. And we don't need ball, stick, net games in the Olympics. We've got our leagues that I should also fix for ball, stick, net games. So they can have their own sport tournaments. We're also going to eliminate all of these specialized teams for every country for every event. Those are gone. Like, we're no more 11,100 athletes competing. Instead, what we're going to do is every country gets 10 athletes total for all events. They have to pick an elite team of 10 people, and that team has to be diverse enough to accomplish everything that
So
they're
they're all
going to
doing multiple
compete in.
sports or whatever you're about to say.
Yes,
I'm anticipating.
yeah.
Okay.
But you can only choose from these 10 people. 9 of these team members, they can be professional athletes that train just like the normal ones that we have now. Although they're going to have to be much more broad in their training, right?
Yeah.
But one team, the 10th team member, is a random citizen from
like
the country.
a lottery, like it chooses.
It's a random citizen between the ages of 16 and 45. They have to be in good health, and they have to consent to participate. So you can't just force someone.
When you say
but
good
it's-
health, you just mean they don't have heart conditions. It still could be some pot-bellied 45 or how old did you say 40? So it could be a 35.
16 to 45.
Okay, so there could be a 45-year-old who's had a few beers in his day, and but he's not. His heart's fine. You're just saying good health is just you're going in if you get selected.
Well, and you want to, and
he wants to. Yeah.
Presumably, you would. Well, there would be a lot of pressure. So, if you think you're not worthy and you got too much of a gut to compete in the Olympics, then you might turn it down. But anyway, that's the.
I don't think they should be able to say no.
I considered that, but then you don't want unwilling competitors, because then how are they going to behave? You want them to be trying. You want their heart to be in it, because as we both know, how much heart you have is. That determines how much you win, right?
Yeah, people would
it's all about
this
heart.
would be a fan favorite just every Olympic.
This would be just imagine if you have this battle between two, countries that have a rivalry or whatever, and you have this event, and it's the random citizen from the USA versus the random citizen from Great Britain or whatever, and you got this kind of slightly overweight Brit, with his top hat and his monocle or whatever, and you have the American, and it's like a high school kid or something, and like they're going, they compete in the event, like that would be amazing, right? That would be so good. Would be. And whoever won, they would be a celebrity, and their country would love them, and we would be able to hold them up as like, random citizens of the U.S. are the greatest.
So would you, I don't want to get ahead of you, but would you say that the random citizens have to compete against each other, or would there be like this strategic planning?
No.
Like we know so-and-so's the world's best at basketball or whatever your sport is, that we just go ahead and put up our bad person to play them because we're going to lose anyway?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but that's not how I would arrange the events. I'll go ahead and get to that, to the events of the new Olympics. So I mean, conceivably there could be a one-on-one situation, but with teams of 10, I imagine a lot more team competitions. But anyway, so here's how I would structure the actual competition. I would have it so that the hosting country, they have 4 years, the 4 intervening years between each Olympics, to prepare a country-spanning obstacle course. It spans their whole country in a variety of ways, kind of like the Amazing Race, sort of, right?
Yeah.
And this obstacle course tests multiple skills, and so all the teams start in one place, and they make their way through all of the events over the course of however many weeks, 2 weeks or whatever.
Wait, it would have a reality show feel to it, right? It would be so exciting. You get to know the athletes as they're traveling across the country. Am I hearing that right? Yeah. There'd be drama. There'd be some social drama involved in this, I'm sure.
Right, and so I'm open to. I would leave it up to the host country to decide whether they want it to be a race. They shoot the gun or whatever on day 1, and whoever completes the event on day 20 first, that team wins. Like, I'm open to that if they want, or if they just want to have it be a symbolic progression from one end of the country to the other, and they have events in individual cities and locations in between.
Yeah.
It's scheduled. That's fine too.
I would leave it really up to learn about the country, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's really neat, and that way, like, we avoid the trap that every other professional sport has fallen into, where every year it's just the same. Like, now we're on Super Bowl 42 or whatever, the 42nd season of football, and it's like, who cares anymore? Like, who watches the 42nd season of Survivor or CSI or whatever? Like, no one. Like, the interest has waned, so we don't need and Olympics have been around since, like, the Greek times.
Yeah, when they were doing it naked or whatever.
Yeah, right. So we're really past our prime here. Doing it this way, the host country would be able to keep it fresh every 4 years. Every Olympics, they would get to change up how they do it. So in addition to that, the host country gets to choose the individual events that it uses for its Olympics. And so the way I imagine it working is, instead of having these discrete events like basketball or gymnastics or whatever, the host country, there's a list of like general skills. So the ones that I could think of were swimming, speed, endurance, cycling, climbing, fighting, dexterity, acuity, grace, balance, and strength. So
acuity, that's interesting.
Acuity, so accuracy and aiming or whatever.
Okay.
So those are just some general skills that I could think of, but we could have more.
Strength. Did you have that in there?
Yeah, strength. Strength is on there too.
Okay.
So the way they might want to do it is maybe there are 10 events total in the Olympics, and they pick 5 pure events and 5 mixed events. And so the pure events would be pure speed or pure strength or pure cycling or whatever, and the mixed events would be some combination of 1 or 2 of those. So I thought up some examples that could possibly be considered. So like a pure event would be something like downhill bike racing, which would be pure cycling. I mean, I guess you could say speed, but Sure, but it's mostly cycling.
Right.
River swimming, that would be a cool event, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of swimming in a pool, swimming up a river or something. That would be awesome.
That'd be tough. Gosh. Yeah, I like it.
Tightrope obstacle course. That's pretty cool. Like testing pure balance, right? You have to navigate on all of these ropes everywhere. Team free-for-all boxing. That's pure
free-for-all boxing. Yeah.
That's pure fighting. So like just think about how crazy that would be. Like you have your team of 10 people and you're fighting another team of 10 people in like a free-for-all.
The size
boxing
of the
match.
ring, yeah. If it's even a ring, I don't know. It might be designed
It might be like
differently.
a small, like a city block or something.
We should put boxing on your list of to improve because it's
is.
pretty exciting. Yeah. Okay, it's just an interesting one, you know.
Yeah, I have it on my list. I haven't improved it yet, but I could. But like, yeah, team free-for-all boxing would be awesome. Another obvious pure event would be Olympics rerun watching, which obviously is an endurance sport.
Olympics rerun watching?
Yeah, you have to sit and watch reruns of old Olympics before I fixed it. And whoever can do it the longest without falling asleep, they win the endurance match.
That's a lot of hours, I suppose, and not falling asleep.
Right. Yeah. So it would be hard. It might be cruel and unusual punishment.
That's but like this is silly, but like the staying up and stuff like these, just sort of endurance things that aren't like staying up or eat food contests or stuff like that. Like these are. I would like to see a hot dog eating Olympic
that's
level
good.
one.
Hot dog eating would be
or
good.
some sort of food eating. Yeah, hot.
Yeah, it would be the host country. So like Japan, they might do like sushi eating or something.
Yeah.
Like
I really like this.
Yeah. So I was also thinking like the host country would have specialized events. So Japan could have sushi eating for endurance, or like shuriken sharpshooting. That would be pretty cool. Or like katana fencing or something. It would be themed. That would be awesome. Because then it changes. And like if the Olympics were in the United States, you could have like cowboy. What do they call it when you duel with a sharp? Like the
sharpshooting dueling
showdown.
Showdown.
What's it called? Showdown at the OK Corral or whatever, kind of like that. Pew, pew.
Where you pace off and you turn around and shoot at each other.
Yeah. But they would you would be wearing vests, or it would be like a paintball gun or something. Yeah. And then the mixed events they leave a lot more room for creativity, I think. So some of the ones I thought of were like for strength and balance, like a head balancing furniture lift. So I don't know if you remember, but sometime when we went to a Cirque du Soleil, I think it was you and me, maybe, and there was a guy that could just balance a ton of furniture on his head.
Right, right.
Do you remember that?
Was it some chairs, or maybe no?
Yeah, it was like chairs and tables,
quite
and all kinds of stuff, and they just kept they just kept piling it on and on and on, and it would be kind of like that. But you have to hold up and balance a ton of it. It doesn't have to be furniture, but whatever it is, and that would be the event, and that would be really cool.
Another one, balancing things, they're intense. People watch that, like that. Your eyes gravitate toward that. You can't help but want it. I guess because safety's involved too. Because I'm imagining pushing yourself too far past the limit with stuff balanced on your head.
That's already the case with the Olympics, right? I mean, the weightlifting, they lift really heavy amounts of weights, and there's danger. Yeah. There's danger involved. Horse judo.
You got to explain more. Who's doing the fighting here? Like, are the Olympians just like?
Yeah, so they're horseback, and they have to fight each other from horseback. So it's grace and fighting. That's the combo.
I like it. I like. Oh God, I'm blanking on names right now. Old school, where you javelin, like, are you going
jousting.
at each other? Jousting. Yeah. Like, bring that back, man. Just like running at each other with horses and spears and stuff. Like, that's neat.
That's cool. I think you could. I had on my list jet ski javelin, but you could also do jet ski jousting. You could do that too.
Jet ski jousting would be so intense with the waves and depending on the weather. It really all these different variables. I like it.
Yeah, it's so cool. Underwater judo is if you don't want horse judo, you can do underwater judo.
Yeah,
which is still cool.
Why not?
One I thought of was balloon darts, which sounds kind of lame, but just imagine if you can, like, some kind of urban environment with these balloons that are positioned in strategic locations, and you have to quickly hit 50 with darts as fast as you can, and just pop, 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 like that.
I pictured you're on this, like, you have a vest with all your darts on, and you're jogging this course, and the balloons are in different, they like pop out, and you have to, like, as you're so there's like, it's scored based on finishing the the time and accuracy or something, and so they're these, whether it's balloons or I don't know, but just having to like throw your darts as you're running down the course. I don't know. It's just like got my creative juices going.
It would be so cool. I think it would be awesome to watch someone really quickly and accurately go and throw all these darts to pop the balloons.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool. Scuba race, that's an obvious one. Like, I mean, we already have swimming in a pool, but why not swim like in coral reefs underwater fast?
I think what's funny about this and what you unearthed is the people are going to laugh at the absurdity of your suggestions because they'll go, that's not our real sport, or
Shut up.
What athleticism does that show? But the reason
all of the athleticism.
Any sport, though, no, a lot of them, like even dart throwing, whatever, like there's precision, but like any sport, like basketball is, put a basket in a hoop, is not. It's just that people all agreed to get better at and focus their attention on it. And when they do that, then we see it as a display. We understand to some degree how athletic that display was because we're familiar with it. It's the complaint I was giving earlier. When you watch a sport that you're unfamiliar with, you don't know how impressive what you're seeing is. Like you seeing a high school team versus an Olympian team, you might not. It just looks like the sport to you. You don't see the professionalism in it. So right. The fact that collectively, if we all just got into underwater judo, like there is athleticism and we would respect it. So their complaint is because it's not popular, it's not popular. It's this sort of circular reasoning. If they would just open their mind that like, if this was popular, all the things you're suggesting, or at least most of them,
all of them,
actually would have credibility and displays of athleticism. So
I mean, look at mixed martial arts, which has exploded in popularity, and there's a bunch of different techniques that they use, and it's fighting and all that, but it's still an expansion, a broadening of athleticism, and my fixed Olympics is just that to a much greater degree on the world stage. Like your team of 10 has to be elite, and they can train. Like I think the host country has to announce their events in advance so that the people can train. It's not just
say 2 years in advance even.
Yeah. It's not just sprung on them.
And so do you have caps? Like there's going to be one athlete that might tend to be the best. They can't do it all, right? Like there's got to be some sort of
I would say, depending on the event, they may be team events or they may be individual events, and, you can choose which team member you want to compete. Like something like scuba race or maybe the 100-meter syrup dash. That's for the Canadian games. You dash through syrup, like it's like ankle or shin deep syrup. Like that would be
is it like what would you do? The old Nickelodeon game
that was
show, like
awesome.
event Olympic style.
It was better. That was better than the Olympics. Something like that, or like stealth slingshot capture the flag. That would be a team event, right? So, like
why not be hide and go seek? Like,
you could.
I don't know if that'd be as entertaining or enthralling.
You could probably spice it up. But so that might be a team event, but then you would have your individual events. That would be like your jet ski javelin or the 1,000-meter cartwheel.
You just keep peppering in so many of these events.
And then you would have the ones where the whole team competes, but one at a time. That would be like your whitewater
1,000 meters cartwheel,
whitewater archery. Or the lumberjack race, which would be, how fast can you chop down a tree or multiple trees?
See, I like cool. That. That has some legitimacy, man. Like,
dude,
it's got muscle, accuracy, endurance, like a lot of strength.
I'm telling you, like there is so much potential that we are not reaching with
watching
our Olympics.
some big dudes, or like chop down a tree like quickly. Like everyone's gonna get quiet and watch for that. They're like, hold on a sec, let me watch this.
Yeah.
Because the guy's going fast and hard, and he's swinging and
just going at it. And then when the tree falls, he's like, ah! And the other guy's tree hasn't fallen yet, and he just throws down the axe.
Oh man,
that's so cool.
The victory is a tree falling. Like it's cool.
Great. It's epic. Yeah. And then, they don't all have, there's the different skills. So you could have, like in the current Olympics, we have gymnastics and stuff, but we could have the best one I could think of was parkour dancing. So
dancing with it?
Yeah, so it's grace and balance. So you're like jumping around between buildings and poles and whatever parkour people do, but you have to do it gracefully and to music or something.
It would definitely have like a hip hop urban vibe.
Sure, yeah.
Like yeah, the dancing would be very fun that way. Have you seen there is some sort of sport that is like it's a parkour tag game?
Yeah, I have seen that. It's awesome.
It actually is awesome, and it's enthralling to watch them like go around the courses and stuff. And so,
yeah, it's great, and that would be perfect for the Olympics. Obstacle course tag or something like that. That would be perfect for it. And it would be way better. And so depending on the host country, there's special terrain and everything too. So, like in Japan, there would almost certainly be an event where they have to run up the steps in Fushimi Inari. You remember with the big orange gates, or climb Mount Fuji or something. Or can you imagine doing the parkour dancing around Tokyo or those little Japanese alleys? That would be so cool, and people would watch. People would tune in and watch because it's unique, and you're not going to see that again in your lifetime.
And people, you really would choose iconic parts of your country to display, and then later people would walk the areas and go, this is where it happened, this is where the sport took place, and it would just add to the fame and the mythos of the place. I don't know. This idea of folding in where the place is at, where the Olympics are located, and utilizing the land and the landmarks to up the sport is really cool.
Yeah, I don't understand why they don't do that already. I mean, I guess they kind of do a little because they do the Winter Olympics.
The point of sports is to make it all the same. That a basketball court is these measurements and this sort of wood and this whatever.
See, I think that's a misstep. I think the sports have done it wrong there, and that's been a frequent complaint of mine. Because while I understand that having it consistent makes it gives you a measuring stick by which to gauge the athlete's performance, I understand that. But I think that sports are for their entertainment. So it's for the people watching the sports. So
it's all in the name of the record book. They're doing this all so they can say the record was broken under the same conditions. But are record books worth absolutely having less entertaining sports? I don't know.
No, they're certainly not. They're absolutely definitely not. And if you want to, after the whitewater archery or the 1,000-meter cartwheel or whatever, if you want to regularize it and have it so that people can see who's really the best in the long term, go for it. But when it's introduced in the Olympics, it needs to be fresh and new, and it needs to catch people's attention, and it needs to be an event, a spectacle. Along those lines, I have one more idea, and I don't know how well it fits, but I thought it was an interesting idea. So maybe in some years, with special arrangement, there can be exhibition matches where the leaders of the countries have to compete.
Or presidents or whatever their term for
or maybe
leaders.
Celebrities from the countries. I don't know, but it's just some well-known, notorious person. And that would make national pride a little bit more on the line. There would just be exhibition matches, so you wouldn't expect Joe Biden. I don't know what the event would even be there.
I really like this.
Maybe it would be the endurance to stay awake. But whatever the case, you would have your leaders, and you could even have it where countries that are on bad terms with each other or have tensions, they would say, you know what, we'll just settle it in the Olympics, and you would have Vladimir Putin and whoever else, having their face off, and at the end, they shake hands and they're like, you're not so bad. and we would all get along more.
Having leaders and like their number one celebrity, whoever's brought in the most fame by some measurable standard. Yeah, I love this idea, because then I would also learn things. I'd actually want to know who is this person and all of that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I really, and you would learn something culturally, probably, because ours would most certainly be an actor or a singer, right? That's just pretty guaranteed. Whereas, wouldn't it be interesting to learn? I mean, would it be true? Would it be an actor or a singer in every country, or would there be one that, you know, is just a really famous
cook, you know,
cook,
or
something? Yeah, or maybe a religious leader. I don't know. I don't know how you would measure
or an English teacher.
Or an English teacher. Yeah, a guy can dream.
So yeah, that's all of my ideas. I consider that fixed, and I came up with a new name. It'll be called the Special Olympics.
Yeah,
because I figure this is special.
It's special.
Yeah, it's different, and special.
Yeah, there's no issue with that whatsoever. Perfect. You've nailed it. It's put it in the books. That's happening.
If we can't do Special Olympics, we could. I thought of a backup name called the Omegalympics. That's probably better.
Omegalympics?
The Omegalympics. Like Omega, you know, the last letter in the Greek alphabet. So it's still Greek, but it's also like the Mega Olympics, and it's still Olympics.
Omegalympics.
The Omegalympics.
I think the names could use some work, I'll be honest. But other than that, I'm sold.
Well, we can have a competition. We can have a competition for it one year.
Rename it every 4 years.
So there we go. I personally think it's way better than our current Olympics, and maybe we can make some suggestions to the next Olympic Committee for 2024, and we can start working this in.
In all seriousness, I think ideas like, I mean, you know, in part this stuff is silly, but when you think silly, it also paves pathways to some more legitimate criticisms of the current status of things, right? Like, why do we just do it this way and we stick this way, and like, why are sports so fixed right now? I mean, obviously, if there are enough fans, it's kind of like, sorry, Bennett, like enough people watch, you know, football, like they're not trying to win the Bennetts of the world over, but but at the same time, Olympics, like, you can't quite make that case. I actually like to see the numbers. Like, people tune in for the closing ceremonies and opening and sports here and there, world record. But it seems like every year, this is fascinating to me, every year so many world records are set. And it's not because we've evolutionarily progressed and like people are evolving that quickly. It's more just, I'm assuming that, like, if it is a consistent sport and the training really does improve and the technology does improve and we understand diets a little better, I mean, I'm imagining like these in order to break records, you know, it's by, you know, milliseconds often, and so it's happening. Breaking records is happening at wildly. Like, anytime I turned it on 4 or 5 times, didn't pay much attention. I'm not claiming, but it would just be like, yep, a new world record set. And I'm like, really? Almost every time I watched it, a world record was set. And it can't be because athletes are so much more athletic. It has to be because training has gotten better, and like their performance, their output really is better. But it's
think about too, all of those dozens of events, and you know, you have these people doing nothing but training for those events.
Yeah.
It just makes sense that you would have a progression of, of skill.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what you were saying, I guess.
Well, there was something too, I'm going to butcher this, but they believed no one could, it couldn't physically, the 4-minute mile could not physically, maybe it was 5 minute, I think it's 4 minute. The 4-minute mile, no one could do it. Then this guy did it a long time ago, proved that it's possible.
And now a lot of people have done it.
And now a lot of people have done it. And it's like he broke some barrier, the psychological barrier. And now tracks are better paved with this rubbery stuff, and our shoes are better, and our training is more specific, and so we've really tightened things up. And so you just, you know, and then you get people sort of groomed to be this from an early age as well. So all of those factors make people break records a lot more often. And
so, like, my argument about the entertainment, you know, is that how amazing is, like, if you watch the guy, you know, run the 1,000-meter dash or whatever it is, and or a mile, the 4-minute mile or whatever. And the first time the guy breaks 4-minute mile, and the announcers are screaming and all, maybe you go, oh wow, something just happened, and you feel a little bit of excitement on their behalf.
That's cool. You break a world record. Cool.
Yeah, that's what people like about sports when something like that happens. But then imagine, the next Olympics, someone has been training and they get 3:59. Like, how much excitement are you going to feel that time? Like, my bet is not that much, right? Like,
especially watching, all you know is they're like, or if you watch swimmers, and even if you know they're breaking the record, it looks the same to our eyes. Let's be honest. You're just being told they broke a record, so your excitement is they broke a record, and like that's cool. But like, let's be honest, it doesn't physically look that different. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly my point, and that's my same critique of football and basketball. All of those things when he scored however many 3-pointers. It's like, okay, like I've seen a 3-pointer and he scored some of them. Like, why is that impressive? It's not really, other than intellectually, like, oh, he had to do it multiple times. I understand that must be difficult. So what? That's why, like, I think the Omegalympics, you don't see underwater.
Sorry, just Omegalympics.
You don't see underwater judo every day, and so the first time you see underwater judo match, you're going to be floored, right? And not only are you going to be floored with underwater judo, you're then going to see your cliffside lacrosse in the next match or something like that, or the cliffside wrestling. That would be cool too, where you have to climb a mountainside, but you also have to like pull the other person off, and so they fall down to the bottom, and it's whoever makes it to the top wins.
I am sympathetic, and I guess I use the word sympathetic carefully now, to your frustration with like sports should be eye candy to some degree. They should be like fun and unique and creative and strange. If you want eye candy that's creative and fun and strange, you're kind of limited toward some art forms. Like if you want to see people performing, then you're limited to sort of just theater. And theater's amazing and awesome, and Cirque du Soleil and
I love Cirque du Soleil.
They're amazing, but and then if you want to go toward athleticism, though, not that like obviously theater and they're super athletic in Cirque du Soleil and in musicals and all of that awesome stuff. Choreography is amazing, but it's not. It's different than seeing a sport. So if you want to go over to some like competition, then you are just limited to these. They're not spectacles. They're not particularly creative. In fact, they are more refined and specific and trying to level all the
they're smoothing off. Yeah, they're smoothing out all of those interesting, unique things, and that's why I cynically call them ball stick net games or whatever.
Because it's just put a ball in a net with a stick or some variant,
something like that, right?
And although I've played basketball and I respect all of it and I don't want it to go anywhere, I think there's just such room for. Also, I could argue that athleticism requires adaptability, and it's really nice to, if you're handed a different weighted ball or there were multiple or there were just two, you don't want to overwhelm the athlete. They want to have clear goals, like if you were to more seriously refine some of the sports. But yeah, throw in bizarre stuff, make it a spectacle. Like, don't make it a cheesy game show where like lasers are blinding them or but like you can have rotating stuff. Like why you can't name a sport with anything that's like got platforms are rotating really, and yet that stuff could be utilized in really cool ways. So.
Yeah, man, you're speaking my language here. You're speaking my language. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
it's my goal. Fix sports.
Well, I will round things off by a question I have. Speaking of well, that's not speaking of. There's no transition. That's gonna be nice. There's no. I'm just gonna go with.
Just throw it out there.
I'm having I'll just ask the question. It's about nostalgia. Can you experience nostalgia without or towards something without having previously experienced it? Does that question make sense?
So basically, there was something that happened in the time when you were a child, maybe, but you never went through that thing or never experienced that. But now you're exposed to it, and somehow you feel nostalgic for it.
Yeah, or you feel a sense of. I mean, I could even say I recall watching Stranger Things, and it gave an '80s vibe, and it really resonated with like our generation, but also like younger people like it, and they might even be getting a sense of nostalgia, even though they wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't be nostalgia technically, I guess, but like a yearning for yesterdore or whatever.
Right. So, I mean, is it nostalgia when you watch like a pioneer movie or something, about like people exploring westward in the 1800s or whatever? Like, is that nostalgia or what would you call that? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
I don't know. I guess I'll be a little more specific with my experience is that I have turned back on my Super NES Mini, which was modded to have all the Super Nintendo Entertainment System games, the entire library's worth of games. And so I was watching some YouTube videos of various people playing 16-bit gaming era stuff, and like the fondness I had toward the games, and I had quite a number of them, and of course like your big ones like Super Mario and Mario Kart and stuff, and you're like, oh, I would love to play that again. I'd love to play, I played a game called Super Soccer with David growing up, and we stayed up, like, even as a little kids, we thought it had magical powers because it would reinvigorate us. We wanted to stay up all night one night, and so we would get really tired. We'd play a game, and so we're like, Super Soccer has this magical stay up all night powers, and so, of course, playing this game, which does not stand well to time. I mean, we could argue differently. We had fun playing recently, but it's not a great game by any measurable standard. But that would insult David if he were to hear that. He'd go, "Oh, it's great," but like that's classic nostalgia, right? Is memories from it. And then I started. I gained an appreciation for like 16-bit gaming that I kind of have a newfound appreciation for it, and like studying some of the classic games that were considered greats that I didn't play. For instance, Yoshi's Island, that's Super Mario World 2, and I started playing it the other night, and playing it, I feel a sense with the graphics, the very distinct graphics, the beauty, and all of this. It takes you back to this mid-90s feel. And so I guess I am still having legitimate nostalgia for the 90s, but I'm playing a game I never played, and yet feeling the I'll call it the warm fuzzies of nostalgia. And I'm getting a lot of that playing my 16. So these games are actually quality, and some of them, like Yoshi's World, hold up very well over time, whereas the N64 era does not, right? Like they were the early adopters of 3D graphics, and they just don't hold up that well, and they're funky cameras and stuff, and they're just even though you might have nostalgia or even fun playing them, they're just clunky, and they've had so many quality of life improvements over time that like they just feel so dated to play.
The 16-bit, the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, like those games, they were refined 2D games because they were like third or fourth generation of 2D games.
Whereas in 3D worlds, like racing games, you have like stuff like the gray fog in the background where the images pop in like really late and just look terrible, honestly. But it was so cool at the time, you just could overlook just because you're playing 3D for the first time.
It's amazing how fast 3D games got acceptable, like, the PlayStation 1 and the N64, I agree with you, they did, in a lot of cases didn't age well, even though some of my favorite games are N64 games. Like, there's no question that they were rough around the edges in some places, even if they were very novel for their times and groundbreaking things that they introduced. But like when you move up one generation to the GameCube and Xbox and PlayStation 2, like those games were great, right? Like they looked good on the screen. They had relatively refined mechanics. Some games were still rough around the edges, but like I think, like for my money, I think that the GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2 generation, that was like the maximum return on investment. Like you could make relatively low budget games that still told a story and had fun gameplay. and didn't break the bank.
Yeah,
And after that, we've been having diminishing returns.
I mean, I would argue, yeah, well, you're right. I think there was a huge jump between PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. People were even, do you remember, there was this like crave in for video gamers to say, oh, it looks like real life, or you can't tell the difference. And people were wanting to apply that to PlayStation 2, which is hilarious because it just didn't, or like people at school talking about how you could see the jerseys, you could see the texture on the jerseys, the little holes, the breathability of the jerseys. That was so incredible if you paused it and zoomed in and stuff.
Well, I remember the original Xbox, it launched, I think, with Project Gotham Racing.
Oh, yeah, it looks great.
And it looked really good. And, that was just like, it was just like, well,
it's
how
one
can
of the
it get
closer
better?
to photorealism or whatever you want to call it. Like it looked, and it's, a simulator, and but it's still not, it even looks good today, like no joke, but it's not, you're not going to mistake it for reality or something like that. And then I would still argue that there was a much less of a jump, but a big jump. PS3, to that era of those consoles were still.
It was. I mean, it was
Xbox
into
360. It was like it was an improvement, like a marked
it was
improvement.
into the HD. It was into the HD era. If someone's told me, if they said, well, in my opinion, the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii, even though the Wii wasn't in HD, that generation that's the maximum return on investment in games. I would say, okay,
there's an argument to be made for
that's
it.
acceptable. I can understand that.
But we're done there. The subsequent.
Oh yeah, the subsequent generations are trash. Like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, garbage. There's like almost no useful improvement in my personal opinion. The graphical gains were pointless, and it just meant that development times now take 4, 5, 6, 7 years and millions more dollars for what is often a less fun game.
And at least Nintendo's trying to do different things. I mean, the Wii U was a disaster in some ways, but also was trying something. And the Switch has been really successful and is unique and has this portability. So they seem to understand. Look, the graphics are good. You can't just make a system for graphics now. You have to offer something different. And so good on Nintendo, I say. But
I say the same.
So back to the nostalgia thing, I guess I'm answering my own question, but am I having nostalgia toward Yoshi's Island? Probably not, but I am having there's something calming about childhood, assuming it was a good childhood, and I did have a good childhood. So, and there's something. The reason is like the past, the golden years or whatever, looking back in the past, it's finalized. So all the stresses that currently plague the present, they're just done, right? So I'm, in fifth grade, I was probably worried about some test, or maybe I was worried Josh was going to make fun of me the next day, or whatever social pressures or academic or work pressures, if you will. And so those are not on. So when I don't remember those with any immediacy, right? Looking back on it, I just remember, fifth grade, we played kickball and like war ball and wrestling. We talked about wrestling. And so that's another area that I'll actually say, you're going to find this funny. So I've been watching old commentary on older WCW wrestling videos, and which has bled over. So WWE's bought it all. So the people making these videos are just wrestling fans that are both current and past, and they're probably around our age. And so I'll find myself clicking on like clickbait type 10 wrestlers. So they'll say something like 10 wrestlers who got injured in the ring, and it'll span from the 80s to now. And so I'll like be watching. I notice I'll be watching stuff about wrestling right now, WWE right now. And I'm like, why am I watching this? Even though but it gives me a sense of warm. Like it's unusual to like that memory of liking wrestling, even seeing fans now, or if there's a clip of a wrestler now, even though I have no relationship with it, nor desire to get involved with wrestling, I'm just like, the relationship with wrestling. Like I genuinely liked wrestling. Yes, it was mostly a social thing, but liking those wrestlers, rooting for your guy, like having finishing moves, like just the sort of adrenaline of a match, the pageantry of it all, the absurdity, the absolute absurdity of it all. Super like fun and innocent and like goofy, and so I get small doses of those in the YouTube videos. So it was just funny when I remarked to Danielle. I was watching a video. She's like, "Do you know these wrestlers?" I was like, "No, no." So why am I watching some like 10 times backstage disputes were real or something, and like eight of them are more in the current era, and I don't know any of them, but one of them is with Bam Bam Bigelow, and I'm like, oh yeah, the guy with the tattoo on his head, yeah, and wore the fiery suit. I'm just like, yeah,
he's still around. Yeah, that's
no,
crazy.
He's not still around. But the point is that it would throw one of those in there from the so
that's
like,
great. Yeah,
Lash
LaRue.
Yeah. And I enjoyed those. I enjoy the current ones.
What was the luchador guy who Rey
Mysterio Jr.
Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yeah,
Rey Mysterio Jr. And there were a bunch of them. Yeah. I mean, I was right there with you. I would say, I think you can't. Well, all right. So to answer your original question, can you experience nostalgia for something you didn't actually experience at the time? Mm-hmm. I would say I'm going to say no with an asterisk. So I think when you're talking about Yoshi's Island, I think that's the best example that you said, because you're not experiencing nostalgia for Yoshi's Island, but Yoshi's Island it's an example of a 90s creation. It feels like other things in the 90s. It's on the Super Nintendo, which you did play and you did experience. It has Mario in it, which you did experience. So you're experiencing nostalgia there, but it's nostalgia for the 90s. It's nostalgia for that era. It's nostalgia for your childhood, like you mentioned, this the golden age or whatever. So that it is nostalgia, but it's not specific nostalgia. And I would say, like my question earlier, can you experience nostalgia for like the Pioneer days or like the Roaring 20s or, which a lot of people like the jazz era and stuff. We obviously can't experience nostalgia for the Roaring 20s because we weren't around. But there are definitely people our age who, for whatever reason, they love that era, that historical period. Some girls love the Victorian
You'll find
British
this funny,
area
but Danielle, knowing Danielle, you'll find this funny, but she loves the aesthetic of the 1950s and that sort of just a simple suburban like aesthetic.
Yeah, white walled tires on cars and those
and the classic dresses.
Those refrigerators were kind of rounded.
Yes.
I agree. There were some interesting stylistic choices. Cars.
And women's hair was a very proper way, and those like poodle skirts or whatever. I'm not sure if that's and even the greaser dynamic with the leather jacket and like
snapping the fingers.
The socias and the greasers. So the socias are the preppy guys, and like then there's the
So I mean, I can see that, and so I wouldn't call that nostalgia. I would actually call that a love of fantasy. But it's interesting because actually the joy and appreciation that someone might have for the 50s or the 20s or whatever, I think maybe psychologically is the same as someone has for sci-fi movies, futuristic sci-fi movies, or Lord of the Rings fantasy type stuff. Like, it's the same appreciation. You didn't experience it. You haven't experienced Lord of the Rings. You haven't experienced sci-fi. But you love the world that's presented to you.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's so easy to get that attachment to historical periods is because it's real. Like, we have all the details and they're all consistent because it really existed. And so, you can have historical documentation of those time periods. And so you can really immerse yourself in it with very high levels of consistency because it really happened. So Whereas, in like Lord of the Rings or, some sci-fi setting, there might be inconsistencies or anachronisms or silly things. And so it breaks your suspension of disbelief a little bit.
So then let me ask you this. There's a growing niche of teenagers that will like dress in 90s apparel, sometimes 80s, whatever, but like depending on the friend group or whatever, but it'll be 90s. So imagine baggier stuff, maybe some torn jeans. They're listening to Nirvana. They're able to watch Friends on Netflix, right? Like, or whatever, and they're listening, Matchbox 20 and, Third Eye Blind and stuff too. Like, so, and they're like fully, and they're going for that, acid wash jeans look and t-shirts. And this is, in my observation, it's been girls typically, and so they fully embrace this 90s lifestyle, and they're also 16 or 17, so they weren't born in the 90s. So is this actually the fantasy of another world? Like everything you were just saying, it kind of applied to. Like they didn't experience it, but they found the world appealing, and they.
Yes, I definitely think so. Yeah, I think that's it. And there's an additional layer with teen fashion that's if you can you're competing for social capital in a way, and so whatever you can do to make yourself stand out, you climb to the top of that hierarchy really quick. So if you're the first one to say, I'm going to do the 90s style, well, now there's something unique and special about you that gets the attention of your peers. And so, obviously someone broke that barrier first and it worked for them. And, the same thing happened with 80s stuff too. That happened, neon style clothes. I remember there was a period of time, and we may still be in it, when you couldn't find a tennis shoe that wasn't neon pink, blue, or yellow,
Right.
Which I found annoying.
It's just funny. That's a better example. It's not nostalgia. It's just it's fantasy, I suppose. If it's, but what I'm doing with Yoshi's Island is nostalgia.
It's nostalgia. Yeah, it's nostalgia, but it's not specific to Yoshi's Island, but it's more general. Yoshi's Island is a representation of 90s, which you're nostalgic for.
And there's just a quality game to be played as well.
Sure, no, yeah, definitely.
So that's part of that's why I can get invited into and stay in the 16-bit world, because if I were just playing Super Soccer level games, it's going to be a fun weekend with David, but I'm not going to play on my own. I'm not going to beat a game, put hours into a game and beat it. It's just not worth it. But if the game's quality and I'm just, into it, then, and I'm also impressed that they didn't just make a clone of Super Mario World, which was a huge success. They actually, and I even watched a video. Why wasn't this successful? It's a freaking awesome game, and a lot of kids resisted the cutesy art style. It also came out really late, like months before the N64 came out. So it was
Yoshi's Island.
Yoshi's Island.
Yeah, I never actually played Yoshi's Island.
It's super creative. It's great. It's a near masterpiece of a game, really. It's the quality of it's great, man. And I'm just impressed with the level design and the uniqueness and all the mechanics and they just really went for something different while still capturing the spirit of Mario in general. So I'm just here to plug Yoshi's Island for anyone looking to play a game.
Yeah, that's great. I'm about to be in a gap where I don't have a game that I'm playing. Maybe I'll.
You might have a vague memory. You know how and
I know I'm very familiar with it.
When Baby Mario falls off in the bubble, he goes wee wee wee, and it's super obnoxious. So that is a criticism, but it's also a different way to think about life. Instead of just a get hit, life bar, health bar.
Okay, all right. I thought you were making a very profound point. Sorry, it's just a different way to think about life.
I should have just said health. I meant health. A health bar, because you have seconds to get him back based on various circumstances. So he's floating around the screen and he's screaming, which really does make you want to capture him. Anyway, good game. It is nostalgia. I might have been mispronounced. I think it is pronounced both ways, by the way. Nostalgia. I've heard it both ways.
I think it depends. Did you ever beat Super Metroid?
I'm sad to say I did not, and that's actually I did not turn the system back on for just coming back from your place when I was really enjoying it. I played a little bit, and then I got busy. This was last summer, wasn't it? And then I turned it off for a year, and I didn't want to never come back to the Super NES, and so I did. And I thought about going straight back to Super Metroid, and I thought I'm gonna let a little time pass and start over because. What I enjoyed about that game, I was enjoying it so much. First of all, I was impressed with what a Nintendo game could do, where you felt a little creeped out, you felt a little alone, you felt a little anxiety playing the game. I couldn't believe it could make that happen in that game. Yeah. And I also, what I liked about how the game progressed was you kept leveling up with your powers, and therefore you'd familiarize yourself with whatever new mechanic you've gained. And to enter in after a year of not playing at a fairly high, it would just be hard. And it's one of these where you revisit old areas and frequently, and I need to go. Forgot. Yeah, so I'm just going to start over when I play again. And there's
a new Metroid game coming out in October. That's in the same. It's a 2D.
Are people really
Metroid.
excited? I imagine they're very excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's called Metroid Dread, and it was a lost game. You probably like the history of it since you're into that kind of thing. But like, they pitched it back in the early 2000s, and it just never came out. And it was always a mystery what happened to Metroid Dread, and people would ask, the developers in interviews, and they would kind of hem and haw, it just wasn't the right time. And now finally they've made Metroid Dread, and it looks good. The trailer looks good, and I'm excited to play a Metroid game again after it's been like 7 or 8 years, I think.
So was it a completed game that they just are now deciding to release, or was
No.
It's an idea that they never worked on? Okay.
Yeah, it was an idea that, I don't know, they probably made a prototype or something, and it just wasn't good enough, or the technology wasn't there, it didn't get off the ground, but now they made it. So it's coming out on the Switch, and it looks good. Like, it's side-scroller, but it's, it's 3D, but it's a 2D game.
So when you release a side-scrolling 2D game, do they have a hard time charging full price, or if it's truly in-depth game and all, it's fine, like no issue there, like people play it and love it? Like, I'm just wondering if they get a bad rap. It's a good question. I'm sure a lot of people will complain because there are great 2D games of the same style now that are indie games that you buy for, like Hollow Knight is a great game, and it's like $7 or $8. You can find it for $7 or $8, and it's a huge game. It's an excellent game, and I'm sure Metroid Dread will be a full price, $60 game. And it'll be great as well, but still,
it'll
it's
be great,
a question of like, do you pay that price for that? Well, and why? Why do I need it to be 3D all of a sudden to be worth paying a full price? If I'm paying, it's like, what are you measuring? Is it hours of experience, like quality? It's quality overall. Did I have a good time with this game? But also, if you only played 3 hours and they were the greatest 3 hours, you'd be probably pissed, right?
Pricing is interesting with games because I don't know if you know this, but for PlayStation 5 games, the price now is $70. They upped the price.
It was just a jump. They said it's time to jump.
Yeah, they just agreed, and they were like, okay, now our games are going to be $70 instead of $60.
Yikes!
Yeah,
I did not know that.
I mean, that gets into like $70 for a game.
We're edging in on like getting into $100 a game. Like, it's like, dude, ugh. I mean, seriously, 70. I know 70 is not 100, but
but it's interesting too because like you say, my calculation for the value of a game, it's primarily how much fun I'm going to have. But one thing that influences my enjoyment or my sense of value after I finish a game is, okay, how playtime per dollar, essentially. Like, did I get 60 hours out of the game? Did I pay $1 for every hour of game I played? If so, okay, that's reasonable. Like, that's, that I got my money's worth. If I played it for 60 hours, then I definitely got my money's worth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a movie you pay $20 for to buy or to just go see it in the movies now. And it's
right.
And that's 2 hours. That's
it's
$10 an hour.
Yeah, it's a very inefficient way to spend time. And still books are a very efficient form of entertainment because you can pay $7 for a paperback book, and it can give you hours and hours of entertainment for that. Yeah. And video games come close sometimes. Like if you get a good game discounted or used, or a new indie game or something, like you can get 30 or 40 hours out of a game and only pay less than $10 for it, and that's great. That's really efficient. But that's why, like, I'll play a game, like a recent game I played that I was disappointed in was Mario Golf, which I like. Mario, it's weird, I just fixed sports, but I play a sports game, but it's a Mario Golf game, so it doesn't really count. But I really liked Mario Golf as a kid on the N64 and on the GameCube, and so I got this one, and I played it and I beat it in it was like 8 hours or something. And
2 days or a day even.
I had done everything, and it's like, well,
when I saw it, you were like, all right, and you showed it to me, and then I was like, I think I saw 90% of what within an hour or so. I saw 90% of what there was to offer.
Yeah, you did. You saw pretty much everything, and it's like, that's not enough. So, in my estimation, that is a poor value game. Now, I will say they are releasing new courses and characters as time goes by. So they've already released one additional full course, but that's still not a good.
It was smooth. The animation was good. It was smooth. It was fun to play. It did what it was supposed to do. Like, is it just that golf is got limitations, or did they not get creative enough?
Yeah, they didn't get creative enough. The old Mario Golf games had you ring challenge.
Well, this had new mechanics. You run to it and stuff like that. Like you're hitting each other.
That's true. That's fair enough, but it's not enough. It's not good enough. Like
the courses were straight up boring, man. Like for a video game, for an inventive place, Nintendo's smart. They're good. They're creative. So just to do a Bowser's Castle, which is fine. You want Bowser's Castle. You got to have one. But like
it wasn't good enough.
It just wasn't that great. It wasn't impressive. I wasn't going, wow. I wasn't tickled with all their cool, fun little course things. It was the courses were not even really like worth mentioning. It's like that's the problem, I guess. There was just nothing about the courses.
You need special obstacles and wacky holes and like crazy shots and stuff. Like you need all that. And they had little obstacles, and the Bowser's Castle level was the best of the bunch because it had, castle walls and some lava and stuff. But like that was it. The other courses were very underwhelming. So like I just think that it was they probably put a B team on the game, and they just they didn't take many risks, and it didn't have a lot of creativity. Like they should have, there was the Mario Golf on, I think it was on the GameCube, had putt-putt, and it had putt-putt courses, and that was fun. And, they had different challenges. And you're right, the speed golf where you run, that's new. But if they're going to do that, they should give you the golf cart and let you drive around and, take your time. Like, and if they were going to let you run around, they should have let you run around and put interesting things around the course and, let you kind of like an RPG style or something, go talk to the whatever Mario character on the sidelines or whatever. And they did a little story mode, and that was nice and quaint, but it was also short. Like they just could have, it didn't have enough soul. Anyway, all that to say, like, I didn't spend long playing the game, and I spent a lot of money on it. So I come out the other end and I go, yeah, it was a little fun when I was playing it, but it ended too soon, and so it wasn't good value.
Yeah, and they didn't, like you said, it wasn't a fully fleshed out game in that capacity. Like there just wasn't, by that metric, it's just not a.
Another thing that I'll mention, this is turning into a review of Mario Golf, but like if you remember back in the N64 one, and I think in the GameCube one too, you only started off with like Mario and Luigi maybe, and like a couple others, a basic group, and then you had to unlock all the characters by playing tournaments.
That's a good thing to do. Games should make you earn it, and then you're excited to play with them. Honestly.
Right, and it was kind of like the Super Smash Brothers approach, where Super Smash Brothers, you're playing a battle or something, and then it goes challenger approaching, and you have to fight, you have to beat them in order to unlock the character. And that's great.
Yeah.
It's exciting, and that was how it was in Mario Golf. But in this newest one, you just had all the players unlocked from the beginning.
So they're not special. I mean, they really just don't feel special that way.
No, and there's no reason to play with all of the different characters. Like it just didn't. There's no incentive to do that, and so I didn't.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh well, I blame you. So I accept your apology.
Well, that's a good place to end the podcast.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, well, that was fun.
All
it's
right,
over.
Yeah, screw Mario Golf, Woohoo!